You have questions, we have answers. This is Jane Muller.
And this is Ken Muller. Welcome to our show, all about real estate with Ken and Jane. Today, Jane, we're going to talk about protecting your home from those creepy bugs, otherwise known as wood-destroying insects. And we're going to talk about the value and all that goes in, all the things that can go wrong, and why an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. To help us break it all down, we have with us Louis Antonoff. He's the sales and inspection manager with Anchor Pest Control. Louis, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Welcome to be here.
A lot of time, right? Louis and I go back a long way, right? And I have to say about your company is really, and your company is wonderful, because often I represent the seller, and then the report said there's a possible termite or anything, right? And the seller sometimes get really upset and say, Jane, the buyer just trying to do something to us, and that's not true. I don't have it. That is not true. I always say to seller, the inspector have to point out anything possible they think there might be something. They didn't say there is. That's why we have your specialist, right, and the license for the pest control. They just see. They just like a general doctor, right? You go in to see a general doctor. They send you the blood test. They send you these tests. That's what the home inspector does. So, and then a few times we have your company came and checked and said, sure, there was not actually a termite. That's very honesty of you and your company. Because if you say there is, you'll get a job. But you're always honest. That's really appreciated from my clients and myself.
Yes.
That. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Another thing is I feel a lot of people think pest control is after is when you sell your home. I feel, we feel it's really, right. Regardless your seller, your buyer, your homeowner, you should have your house checked.
Yeah, this show is about real estate, so we typically encounter it during the home inspection. We represent a lot of sellers, and they have the home inspection, as Jane said, and the home inspector has a lot of knowledge. A little bit of knowledge about a lot of different topics. Yes. So if they see anything that's suspect, they're going to recommend, further a wood-destroying insect inspection and a clearance certificate. And of course, the lenders, we should start talking about that. The lenders require that before they're going to give any loan on the house. They want to make sure that the house is not infested by termites or carpenter ants or something that could destroy the structural integrity of the house. But right, we deal with it as at the home inspection stage. But it would be more prudent as a homeowner if they contract with a company like yours to do it on an annual basis or recurrent basis, so you prevent it from becoming a bigger problem than it.
Right. So from something that you had said earlier, it's important as we as humans get older. Houses get older.
Yes.
And one of the things that I always recommend is have a physical done on the house on an annual basis. Yeah. Which means having somebody like myself come in, and it's not just looking for termites, carpenter ants, carpenter bees, or powder post beetles, which are your group of wood-destroying insects. I go into the attic. I look for animal activity in the attic. I look for moisture buildup points for a general insect standpoint, but it's a healthy thing to do. But moving forward from that, having annual plans, pest control plans, is good because you're having somebody come to the house 3 or 4 times a year. Yep. And that keeps an eye on the house on a seasonal basis. As the seasons change, the house can change. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would think buyer beware when it comes to buying a home. I would think that you want to trust the inspector that you have, and because he's going to either tell you things are active or inactive, but he will point out what may have to be done. A lot of times I'll go into a home and the first thing I look for would be prior treatment drill marks from termites, at least. Sometimes it's hard with carpenter bees or carpenter ants, but at that point I will then determine whether or not, once I find the damage, whether it's pre-existing or it's active, and I will make my recommendations to the buyer at that specific time. But it's very, very important to consider having that done. And as you said, lenders will not usually release a mortgage unless they're satisfied that the house is clear of termites, or if it had termites, it then has a warranty attached to it.
How common are termites in New Jersey, at least let's say in central Jersey? That's pretty much our listener base out there. We have listeners from Somerset, Middlesex, Monmouth, maybe Mercer counties that are listening to the show. how common would you say percentage of homes, not to scare anyone or alarm anybody, but but in your experience, you've been in the business a long time, you've inspected thousands of homes, and you've encountered termites more than a few occasions.
Well, there is a saying, there's two kinds of homes in Jersey, ones that have them and ones that are going to have them. So from that standpoint, probably I would say almost 50% of the homes have had treatment already. Some of the newer construction leaves certain things to be desired when it comes to entry points. And I always recommend people, and I'm willing to do this with a lot of homes that are on the newer side, putting it directly into warranty. It's like an insurance policy that you're paying a little bit, not that much, for the comfort of having coverage immediately. You may not have a treatment right away, but at least you're having eyes on that. So God forbid there's an issue, we pick up on it before there's any damage. But I forgot your question.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. About 50% have it, or basically it could be up to 100% if as time goes on.
I think, to be honest, especially in Central Jersey, our client, right, I would say at least 85% or even 90% have it, or either they had a previous treatment or they need a treatment. Why? Because our home we're represented is most of them are older homes. They're built in 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? Yes. So there's not many new construction that much in Central Jersey. So as Louis said, if either you have it or you're going to have it. Right. But first time, I have to say, when I was a brand new agent, right, when I heard a termite, my face changed color. I thought, oh my God, what we're going to do? But later on, a lot of a senior seasoned agent tell me this is like just treat it. I mean,
you just treat it. Most of the time, it's not doom and gloom. I don't think we've encountered any house that had termites that it wasn't treatable, even if there was structural damage, which it is sometimes. Usually, the structural damage consists of replacing a stud or two or sistering the wood together. Right. It's never been. I've never experienced it to the point where the house was near collapsing because of it. It might be they nicked into one or two beams
it's localized damage. But construction has a lot to do with it. The older homes, number one, are cinder block. Yes. So they can travel through the porous of that. You may have a split level where you're going to have half slab, and you have a half a basement, and you may have a crawl space as well. So there are seams of concrete that are mixed, that are meshed together, and they can get between the seams. So older homes, especially slabs, and I say this a lot with adult communities now. Yeah. Adult communities are on slabs, which means it's a carpet of concrete on the soil, keeps it conditioned for termites, and you don't sometimes see until you see the end result, which is damage. Wow. And that's why those homes should always have some sort of a protection plan. They have those in Florida as well, but here they should be having them because the homes are not as built as quality, as I should say, as they were in the past. So they snap them together today, which is unfortunate, but that allows termites to come through. Yeah. And why don't you give a termite 101, explain how termites behave in terms of, migrating. They basically they live on the outside, but they come into the home for the food source, and then they travel back to their hibernation. Right. There's one central queen. She's pregnant all the time. And she'll get 100,000 eggs a month. Wow. They can travel up to a half an acre to 3/4 of an acre to look for all their food. They're basically blind. We're talking about the workers. They're a half the size of a grain of rice. And how they communicate, because they're blind, are through pheromones. And these pheromones they will get by rubbing against each other. So they'll need several, I would say up to 100 to 200 protected food sources per colony. And those colonies work independent of each other because the pheromones are different from one queen to the next. So there's no adoption. So what happens in certain situations is that they'll look for food, they'll scent that area, and then some will stay, and then they'll look for another because they need so many protected food sources. It doesn't always mean that they're going to head for the house, but in the winter they do want to keep warm, and that's where the concrete comes into play. And that's why you'll see with termite treatment drilling concrete areas to get the liquid material underneath the concrete before they patch it up, because concrete harbors warmth. And that's how termites like to get through. So it's cracks in foundations and things like that. But today's method of controlling termites is with what's called non-repellent materials, which are either through bait stations or liquid non-repellents that are odorless. So termites cross through it, and then they travel back with the contamination as it kills them slowly. It takes a month or two so they can adjust and get back to the colony to spread it around. But termites can amass up to 3 million per colony, and you can have more than one colony on an acre. So if you have a half an acre, you can have 2 colonies. That's could be up to 6 million termites.
Let's explain why, because we did have cases, right? And but actually, you did inspection, and you found the termite in the backyard. I think they had a shed or something. Okay. And then the owner said, why do I have to treat it? Because that's not near my house. That's really, one, I think long time ago, there was a deck or something. That's, the owner understood deck is attached to the house. Right. But another time was like truly the shed was almost at the end, the corner of the property.
But it's a structure.
But exactly. So that's what you just said is totally explained why, they have to treat the property, the whole house, even though there's no termite in the house or near the house. But if there's a termite 20 feet away from the house, back
close enough.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's close enough. Yeah,
right.
That's
and you're
why.
protecting your biggest investment that you're purchasing. And
absolutely.
And that's why these reports should be spot on, and then you have to, at that point, a buyer should make sure that they trust the company that's doing the treatment. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the seller is put in the situation where they do the treatment.
Yep.
But that's where the buyer and the seller should work with each other.
And so your inspection services for termites, you have the professional eye, so how do you go about ascertaining whether a home has or doesn't have termites?
We look for wings, drop the wings, which are from the termite swarmers that come out in the springtime. Those are new queens that are produced from the ground. Termite mud tubing, which is a transportation system that they build. It looks like a pencil.
Right.
And it's like a humidor. It holds about 30% humidity that allows them to travel from leaving the earth up a wall to get to the wood, and they go back down. So these are vehicles that we look for. Besides damaged wood, especially in unfinished basements and garages, we look at garage door frames. We look at block foundation and sill plates and any framing that's available to us. Now, sometimes you walk into a house and on inspection, I get frustrated sometimes when the basement's completely finished with sheetrock.
Because you can't see.
That's correct.
Can see nada,
so,
yeah.
You have to do your best and look around and outside, look at stumps, high vegetation areas. There's a lot involved, but there are those are the most important things. Looking for mud tubes, looking for dropped, discarded wings, and damage from open wood exposed areas.
Okay. Well, good stuff. Why don't we take a short break? We'll be right back after these messages. Okay, welcome back to our show. We're joined by Louis Antonoff of Anchor Pest Control. And Louis, before I forget, the listeners out there, if they need to consult you for an inspection or treatment and or both, why don't you share with us your contact information?
Okay, so we're located in East Brunswick. We're a full-service pest control from a standpoint of doing residential and commercial. And commercial is anything from HOA communities, which we work with property managers, all the way through to Section 8s and lower income housing and things like that. Affordable housing. My direct number is 732-710-0260. I get involved in all phases of the operation and services.
Okay. And the area you cover pretty much all of central New Jersey, right? Which is our listener base. You travel
the entire state.
The entire state. That's even better.
It's all the way down to Atlantic City and Philadelphia, and we're in northern Delaware. So.
Oh wow, you get a lot of traveling mileage. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. So let's finish up on termites. Then we want to talk about some of the other pest issues. So listeners out there, can you offer any homeowner tips for listeners to preventive practices, good maintenance practices to try to prevent termites from coming or
Sure. Okay. So a dry house is a happy house.
Okay.
You have a certain amount of moisture. It can be a conducive condition, not just for termites, for carpenter ants, carpenter bees. It softens the wood for any other insect to come in. I like to think that when you walk around, and I recommend all homeowners walk around their house once a week. Look up, look down, especially in the summer when it rains. Look at the gutters. Make sure the gutter leader on the bottom carries the water off the house. But the best prevention is to do either a treatment or, we have these bait stations that we can put down and monitor them. We can open them up and put poison inside. But the best prevention is to do a treatment. We have programs that we can offer. We can tailor any program to any size house. But keeping the moisture off, running dehumidifiers in the house, especially if you have hollow block foundation, that helps to keep the moisture out from within. But having a pest inspector come once, twice a year, spring and fall, I would think are the right times to have somebody come in along with what you're doing, and we can also make recommendations.
Right, and again, this is intended as general advice. Every house is case specific, so you can only give the general advice. You have to actually visually inspect each home to make specific recommendations on it. Yeah.
I really like to talk another topic.
Okay.
I have a client call me all the time. They have now it's the weather getting cold, so our little furry friend want to find a warm place. And last week I had a client call about mice got into the garage, and I have a people call squirrel get into the attic. So,
and we've had situations where squirrels and likewise raccoons got into hibernate in the attics, because I guess it's a warm place and comfortable for them.
Right, the insulation will afford them the ability to, and mice as well can get up there. Mice are terrific climbers.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. So some of the things that I do is I walk around the outside with a simple tool as a straight screwdriver, and I probe certain areas such as air conditioning coils, cable wires, things like that, faucets, anything that is open to the inside. And the idea is to keep them out. It's easy enough to put a Band-Aid constantly by setting snap traps and glue boards. But the idea is to keep them out by doing exclusion work, which we offer as well. But keep in mind, people say, well, they're not in the basement, they're only in the kitchen. But then I go to the attic and I see droppings. So a full service would include keeping them out by finding the openings and then setting certain traps to the attic, basement, garage, and possibly behind certain appliances in the kitchen. Keep in mind, mice not only can leave fecal droppings and urine, which you can't see, but they can also bring in fleas and ticks.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that could be an issue if you have pets. I've seen that on more than one occasion where people call me, they have fleas in the house, and then I say, hey, you have a rodent problem, let's correct that, and then that sometimes adjusts to correct the flea problem.
Interesting. No.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So inspections for the most part are free. Like I said, we cover the entire state, but it's more about exclusion. We have exclusion programs for the top of the house, which would mean the roof line to keep squirrels and raccoons and mice from getting in, and we also do the bottom of the house. And keep in mind, when you're in an attic, squirrels and raccoons and mice, for that matter, can also chew on wires, which can be devastating to the house in the long run.
Yeah, and with the squirrels and the raccoons, if they're in the attic, I guess there's a program you have to trap them and then relocate them, right? You're not
correct. Have a heart.
Have a heart. How do you mean? Right, you can't. They're protected, right?
So basically, in today's philosophy, we find the opening, and if there's more than one opening, we will close one opening to force the animal out through what we call a one-way exit door, which is they can get out, they can't get back in, and that's the safest way to do it. If we have to set a cage trap, which is not always 100%, but if we do, then we release them safely. But keep in mind, their droppings are bigger, their urine is heavier, and sometimes there's a disinfectant and replacement of a certain amount of insulation that may have to be done. So this can be costly. We get calls, and sometimes these are ranges. Could be anywhere from $500 to $3,000.
Sure, I would
including
think
bats. Bats are also can be an issue in the summer.
Yeah, I would think bats can be an issue. Yes. Well, also in the wintertime because they're looking for a place to hibernate. So when they typically try to go to they fly. Yeah, they can fly long distances, right? Yeah, but in the summertime, right? They look in a place in the day to rest or hang
back
them
to the same place that they left. They
right.
They roost in the same place. It is what it is. So, but those are formidable concerns to have, especially if you're buying a house. To have an attic checked thoroughly is important because there could be openings to the outside that you can't see sometimes because the soffit's covering it, and then when you get in, you can see it, as well as clean outs.
Right. Could be a lot of droppings and damage, which could result in thousands of dollars in replacement of the insulation and things. Which
the older the house, sometimes you'll have an original seller who's getting a little older, and they may not really pay attention to what's going on, and the next thing you know, they're getting the report and they're not happy.
Yeah.
Right. Attics are can be very costly, not only for the rats and the raccoons and the squirrels, but also for mold. So it's very important to have your attic inspected on a regular basis.
And the crawl space as well. Sometimes a lot of sellers they didn't even know they have a crawl space. When they got a report, they said, "How can I get there?" I said, "There's access to it." Another common complaints I heard from the clients is the cockroaches. What's the tips?
There's a few complexes that we do property management for some of or help with the landlords as a courtesy, and they always continually have a problem because there's a basement and there's just continual influx of cockroaches.
The condo and townhouse, especially old condo.
Okay, so you have different species, but the most commonly mass-producing species of cockroaches will be the German cockroach. And when you have connecting units, at some point, two kitchens are going to connect, and that's a travel point for cockroaches. So that's how they pretty much breed quickly or spread quickly between common wall or shared units. But again, if sanitation goes a long way, and a lot of these places are landlord-owned, and tenants live there, and landlord's not paying attention. And the tenants, when you don't own the home, then maybe they're kind of closing their own eyes to how they're living. So sanitation is very, very important.
What attracts the cockroaches? What are they attracted to? Food in particular, just food droppings or anything? If you're messing, grease and warmth. Okay,
moisture as
well. So if you're not proper sanitation and cleanup goes a long way.
Usually, there's 4 points that I look at in a kitchen. Behind the oven, it's warm. Behind the refrigerator is warmth. The dishwasher provides moisture, and hinges of doors of cabinets. You open up cabinets, and sometimes they're right where the hinge closes the door, right in the space there.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
That's very interesting.
And again, how it's done today to control cockroaches is that through the use, just like termites, different material, but it's called non-repellents. It's having the insect, in this case cockroaches, take this chemical or this material and travel back as it keeps them alive long enough to go back to their friends and spread it around.
Okay.
Yeah, another often question I had from the client is bed bugs. And many years ago, there was even made the national news. And somebody in New York, I think in the big store, they have to close. And sometimes from time to time, I know if the condo owner or tenant had that issue, they have to treat it. That can be very expensive.
That was before COVID, and then that even people were afraid to go to the public movie theater because they were afraid of getting catching the bed bugs and then transmitting it back at their house because it can be very costly and time consuming. If you want to,
it is still a very low percentage that you would take it with you from wherever you came from, whether it's a hotel or something like that. However, as the world got smaller through more massive travel, and DDT was banned in the United States back in the day, that made for the bed bugs to make to reoccur within this country. But it's not a cheap proposition by any means. But the most important thing that we offer is warranties. You may pay a little bit extra, but you're getting a warranty because they had to come from someplace. And we can kill the bed bugs that are in the house, but sometimes it's hard to control people bringing them back in.
Yeah.
So we will also educate on how to control that part of the issue. After we are done, but warranties are very, very important. But it's good, like I said, to have. We have a canine division for apartment homes and hotels and things like that, and it's not that expensive. If you think you may have them, we can line a dog up. It runs anywhere up to about $350. You get the report. We have trained handlers. The dogs are certified on an annual basis, and they're sweet and lovable, and we care for them.
I can't believe it. The dog that do better job than the
Oh,
human.
that's interesting. That's really cool. I didn't realize the dogs
heard
had
about
that
it, but
skill
never-
to
yeah.
detect the
Every
bed
year.
bugs. I know they can
have
go
to
after.
have to be recertified every single year.
There's a special
Yes,
certification
and
for
we
it.
have
so-
arrangements with, for example, there's a church that allows us to come in and we plant bed bugs. Of course, they're safe in vials.
Sure.
And we let the dogs go when they find them.
Wow.
So it's a constant stimulus response.
Stimulus response.
So we have Anchor, we have Cassie, and we have Rosie.
Oh.
We have 3 dogs now.
Yeah, but
maybe
I don't
we
think they're
train them.
not trainable at this age. Probably if they're too old to.
They train where to find good food.
They're trained to find the food, to smell the food. That's about it. I
yeah,
don't think they don't have any
treats.
special skills in
Beagles
criminal
are,
or bed bug.
Something about beagles and their range of how they sniff, and it's incredible.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Learn
really
something.
good.
So that's like the main the tool used for bed bugs are the canines. That's one of your main bread
Absolutely,
and interesting.
especially in facilities that are large enough where you need to cover a large amount of space within a short period of time. Hotels, housing authorities, places like that. So,
Wow.
Well, I learned something new. That's really. That's
I
enlightening.
think, yeah, absolutely. I think that the key from today's session is prevention, right?
Yeah.
Just like our health, right? That's why we have an annual check with our health.
Correct.
So
Yep.
we should have an annual check for our home too,
yes,
you know?
Right.
It's certainly less expensive to keep them out than to get them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always
No
the
matter
case
what
with
the
prevention,
insect is,
just
it
like with your
really is.
human body. It's prevention is much.
And just so I can say for a minute, we offer programs, for residential whatever that are affordable, where you can pay monthly, like a gym membership.
Okay.
And built into that, even though we come on scheduled visits seasonally, you can call us as many times. And there's your value.
And the people have the peace of mind in knowing that their house is being well protected,
Absolutely.
right?
And
so we're
they'll
out
have
of
my cell phone number.
right.
Can
So we're out of
send
time.
me, anything to be ID.
We're running out of time. So I want to give you a chance to give your contact information once again, Lou. Please.
Okay. Cell phone 732-710-0260. We are located in East Brunswick at the intersection of Route 18 and Arthur Street. Call me, and I will assist you the best I can.
Okay, great. Once again, Louis, thank you so much for being our guest today. Louis Antonoff with Anchor Pest Control. We're out of time. We'll see everyone next week. Bye.
Thank you.